So welcome. Yes, this session we're just going to go briefly over entrepreneurship. And I think all of you guys should be in the ENT category for your role play or your written. If you're in that category, then you're in the correct place. All right, so first of all, what is entrepreneurship? So entrepreneurship refers to all business ventures, both new and old, and it includes a lot of different categories like small businesses, partnerships, firms, corporations, and it can be based on an existing idea or on a new idea. So in the most basic sense, a startup is a newly emerged business venture, and it's started by individual founders to meet a certain market gap. So founders are new or serial entrepreneurs, and serial is just that they have started multiple startups. So nowadays, startups mostly mean new businesses that are solving a market's problems with unique ideas. And a startup seeks to create a scalable business model. So they do differ from entrepreneurial ventures. Startups intend to solve problems uniquely and to grow large. So startups face a lot of uncertainty and often have high rates of failure. And so only a minority of these startups actually go on to become highly successful or influential.
So, the nature of entrepreneurship is defined as the activity of organizing and launching an enterprise with the goal of making a profit. Like Jennifer said, entrepreneurship is different from startups, and entrepreneurship has the following features: it has economic and dynamic activity, it's related to innovation, it has to have profit potential, and you have to be risk bearing in order to be an entrepreneur. And it's entrepreneurship is a process, not a destination. There will be many highs and lows and peaks and valleys when you're trying to do entrepreneurship.
All right, so entrepreneurship is mainly split into two categories. One is the small medium enterprise. So this focuses on local markets like restaurants, laundromats, or services. The other one is innovation driven enterprise, which focuses on global markets. And these have innovation at the core. So if you look at these two charts of revenue or cash flow over time, you can see that for the left, your revenue is linear. So your delta T is very short and the growth of this is capped. So you don't need as much investment in order to get this type of business started. But on the other hand, for innovation-driven enterprises, which focuses on global markets, the delta T is very long. So the growth is exponential and it's often uncapped. But what this also means is that you need a lot of heavy investment. And you can see like in the beginning of this curve, the curve is completely negative. So you're losing money at first, but your growth is much greater if you go on to be successful.
So, there are many types of entrepreneurial ventures. We have marketing, management, finance, and hospitality. And like Jennifer said, entrepreneurship is based off of small companies and new ventures. So, with marketing, we have web design and content marketing. And then with management, it's typically business to business or business to consumer service providers. It also involves human resources and business law. So these can be like small law firms or small companies or joint companies. And there's also finance, and you can have within that banks and then venture capital firms. So yeah, like small banks that are within like the state or within the district. And then with hospitality, it also involves restaurants and hotels. So you can see like around us that there are small businesses and like small restaurants and yeah, hotels too. So yeah.
All right, so now maybe wondering, so what is innovation? Innovation is kind of like a product of invention and commercialization. So with inventions are like essentials to technology or seeking to improve technology. It requires a lot of knowledge of science and engineering, and you need the skills to develop a product or to actually build a product. On the other hand, commercialization is a skill that is essential in business. So this includes venture engineering, and you need the knowledge to be able to make wise decisions, and also the skills to be able to start and the skills to actually grow your business. So innovation is kind of like a product of both of these fields, in which if you have a great invention but you don't commercialize it properly, then it's the same as not having that invention at all, because no one is going to use it. And on the other hand, if you have a really bad invention but you're super good at marketing, well, still no one's going to buy it because your product isn't very good.
So, how do opportunities for new ventures arise? So, there are two options for entrepreneurs. You either can find a competitive advantage from coming when it's low cost, like providing a product for a lower price as compared to other companies. And then there could also be differentiation. So improving on existing products, like how can you be different from the other products that are on the market? Entrepreneurs, for the second option, they can create a new offering that has no competition. So an example of this is the Apple iPhone. It was like the first touchscreen phone when it came out in the early 2000s. So these are like the two opportunities of how entrepreneurs can make a new venture. Yeah.
Okay, so the entrepreneurial discovery process involves scanning different industries and technological, political landscapes to identify opportunities in order to meet these new or existing customer wants and needs. So on the left here, you can see this is a pyramid, so it's called the hierarchy of needs. And on the right, this is it's called a diffusion innovation curve. So the mistake that a lot of first-time entrepreneurs make is that they try to find a problem that many or all people have. And while it might seem reasonable to do this, you need to start out more focused than that, with the ones who really need a solution to the problem first. So there are a couple ways to find these people, and one way is to think of these potential customers as offering in a pyramid. So the ones at the top, or the ones in the red section, or the ones in the blue section really have the problem. And then one step up is when they know they have a problem, and when they have actually started allocating money for the problem and paying for a solution. And at the very top is when these customers have a burning need for the solution. So these are the people who you should actually be targeting, since they're the ones who are actively seeking out for new opportunities. Another lens to take on finding the right customers with a real need is to look at the innovation curve. So the one on the right. So this is called the diffusion of innovations. And it's a theory that seeks to explain how, why, and what rate new ideas and technology spreads. The important thing to note is that for each type of new innovation here, there's a adopter category called innovators, who are willing to take the risks, have the highest social status, and have financial liquidity. So they're social, and they also have the closest contacts with other innovators. So their risk tolerance allows them to adopt these technologies that may ultimately fail. So this makes them the right people to find and understand what new opportunities should exist and how to test and commercialize them.
So with venture feasibility, you have to do a feasibility study, especially for your written. It's a formal analysis of a prospective business idea. So it should be done before the creation of a business plan, and it determines whether or not the business will be profitable, and it also helps the founders on whether or not they should pursue it further. This is probably a really important, it is an important process when you're doing your written, because you need to know if the venture that you're focusing on is feasible, and yeah, it determines whether or not your business will make money in the future.
Right, so assessing these like global trends is a very good way to generate opportunities for your business ventures. So some current trends that maybe you can use in your written or in your role play include artificial intelligence, if you all know what that is, and also the gig economy. So the gig economy is based on a flexible temporary or like freelancing jobs. So these are often connected with customers through an online platform. And the gig economy can benefit workers, businesses, consumers by making work more adaptable to the needs of the moment and the demand for flexible lifestyles. So an example of this would be peer-to-peer sharing. So that includes rideshare like Uber, also Airbnbs, etc. And another example is freelancing. So that is basically where workers are self-employed and they're not committed to an long-term employer. And the third trend is virtual or augmented reality, so VR, AR. And another thing is sophisticated consumer demand. So recently, consumers' tastes are getting more and more complex. So what this means is that a lot of companies are starting to pay more attention to the design. And this includes like the unpackaging experience. For example, Apple with their really sleek design of both their product and of their packaging or box.
So, with small businesses, you can also have international trade. International trade is the exchange of goods and services among countries. And some examples of these include exporting and importing goods, also licensing, which is a contract agreement to use the brand name or intellectual property or patent owned by another company. There could also be franchising, like you see with restaurants like Pizza Hut or Taco Bell. Those are like types of franchises, and with food chains, and those are like among countries. And there's also outsourcing, which is obtaining goods or services from a foreign supplier. That's usually done to minimize production costs. So many small businesses do international trade, and it's just a good way for small businesses to increase their venture and increase their market.
So some benefits of international trade, as Fani said, it increases sales and profits if done correctly. So if as it is a risk, but if you're able to successfully operate, it will increase the sales and profits of your company. And it also increases the competitiveness of a company, both domestically and internationally, since you have multiple branches spread out globally. And it takes advantage of a lot of trade opportunities between different countries. It reduces the total reliance on a single domestic market. So if you're spreading out your company in multiple parts of the world, for example, if you have factories in China and factories in the US, in Mexico, if one of them fails, your company is still alive and your company won't stop all of its production due to error in a certain part of your product line. So it also extends and broadens the company's customer base. So if you have more businesses throughout the world, more stores throughout the world, that's a much bigger customer base than if you just have, let's say, one store or a branch of stores in one country.
So to be an entrepreneur, you also have to have practical skills. So the first one is to have you have to have decision making skills. So you need to learn how to make decisions for your employees or for your teammates and also for your consumers. And then the second one is to be able to generate ideas and set goals and then identify objectives. This is so you can have a clear plan for your business plan and look at how you're conducting the certain steps in your business plan. And that also goes along with the third step, which is planning. You have to be pretty organized to be an entrepreneur, and it also helps with your written in order to be organized and plan what to do. And this also follows along with the fourth step, which is to be able to multitask. So as an entrepreneur, you have to be able to adapt to certain environments and just multitask with different things that you have to do. You also have to have the courage to take risks. I'm pretty sure Miss Lynn and Mr. Klensky have told you in the business fundamental classes that entrepreneurs have to be able to take risks. And yeah, also going along with the sixth step is to have self motivation. You should be able to have self motivation and want to provide solutions for things that are happening in the world. And then the seventh step is to be able to conduct research. This helps in, like we said before, with your feasibility study. This helps in ensuring that your venture is sorry. And then your eighth step is to have problem solving skills. Well, as an entrepreneur, you want to be able to solve problems and help other people. Yeah.
All right, and then you also need people skills as an entrepreneur. So this includes leadership, being able to successfully motivate others, um, negotiation skills, so in business, communication skills, being able to listen, being able to direct, and yeah, finally, listening skills. So, of course, no one is born with all of these skills, and it takes a lot of deliberate practice and experience in order to gain any of these traits over time.
So as an entrepreneur, you also need technical skills. So that involves email management, making sure that you're communicating well with your teammates, and then also having and with your consumers, and also having the fundamentals of web design and development. We're in the 21st century, and many companies and vendors are very tech savvy, and they're pretty good with web design and development. So having the fundamentals of it is really good if you want to start as an entrepreneur. And you also need computer skills. This involves just working with anything with like sheets and Excel and Word, and being able to just work with other teammates too.
All right, so that's all we have in terms of slides for y'all. Um,
Do you
for
guys,
the, yeah, do you guys have any questions?
yeah, relating to your written or role play that's entrepreneurship related? You could put it in the chat if you want, if you're not. Yeah. No one has questions?
All right. So what we're thinking now is we're going to go over a example of a written.
We have a question.
Oh, you do? Nice.
Yeah, so that also involves web design, like app design, web design, like yeah. But many entrepreneurs, many ventures aren't really app design related. That's a certain type of entrepreneurship. But yeah, you could. You want to add anything to that question, Jennifer?
Mm, I would say not all entrepreneurs. It certainly is very helpful, but at the same time, if you do have the idea, you can always hire other people as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now, let me see. Okay, so now we'll go over a example of IBP, so International Business Plan. This is one of the written events um, in the entrepreneurship category. And yeah, if you are doing a role play in entrepreneurship but not a written event, then I guess you're free to leave. That's all we have for this session. But if you have an event that is a written event in entrepreneurship, then please stay for a bit longer.
You can zoom out to show the whole thing.
Oh, oops.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to go over table of
Yeah.
contents?
So with every written report, you have to do a table of contents. This just helps the judge in looking back and seeing where the certain sections are. So you can see like executive summary, and then the analysis, problem, customer segments. So yeah, it's similar to how you're going to do your presentation with the judge. So it just helps in organizing it for both of you and the judge.
Yeah, so just make sure to include all of the different sections. So this is kind of different depending on which event you're in. But on the left, you have to put the Roman numeral followed by the name of your section. And on the right, put the page numbers that correspond to that section. All right, so usually the first page, I think of most of these events will be the executive summary. So first of all, just give like a brief description of your business. Um, and then after that, give your mission statement. So like a very short 1 sentence or 2 sentence summary of what your business is about and what you value. After that, for international business plan, what you do is you give the location that you plan on opening your business. So for this example, it was in China, and then we gave there's a few reasons of like, um, for example, the market opportunity, the market worth, and also um, certain cultural aspects that make this company a good idea, or makes it a good idea to run this company in that certain country. And then finally, as a part of your executive summary, you should have the 4 problems, so the top problems that your company is trying to address, followed by the top 4 solutions. And these are all just a few words or a few sentences as well. So you'll go into detail in the later section.
So yeah, this is the second part of the executive summary. So it shows the target market, who are your first primary consumers, then your second consumers, and then your third consumers. So this just helps with the judge in seeing who's like, what are they looking at for a consumer. And then you also have your unique value proposition, which basically shows why your company or your business venture is a good business venture, like what's the uniqueness about it. And then you also have the financials. This is like the proposed financial income statement. So it shows like the first year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year, to see like the projections of how this business venture will make money.
Mhm. Okay, and then next, so this part is a bit different for different events, so we won't go into it into detail. But if you're in international business plan, you give a brief analysis of the international business situation. So since this was a company in China, what you would give is a summary about China's economic system and information that is important or relevant to your certain business. And since this business was mostly focused on delivery and also basically fresh produce, e-commerce, that is what this section focuses on here. So you can see we mentioned um, like the um, e-commerce food delivery market and how much revenue they generate in the past years. So that will help strengthen your argument as to why you or why the certain country is most fit for you to start your business there. All right, and then you go over some legal information, so some laws that you have to be aware of. And here is a trade area, so cultural analysis. So what part of this country's specific culture will also make it beneficial for you to start the company here.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, this
this
part kind of talks about the business, the hectic lifestyle of employees in China, and so that's why a delivery system would be beneficial in that part of the country.
Yeah. And then for the second part of the analysis, you have to do an analysis of the potential location. This just helps in looking at how, in the market, how your venture will be making money, and it'll also be comparing like the revenue of other markets in that location. So yeah.
So you just had to include like a few trade documents. These you can just search on like Wikipedia. Yeah, and then here is some more information, some graphs about the market situation in China. Okay, so as for the problem, I'm pretty sure all of the entrepreneurship writtens have this. So you have to list out the top 3 or 4.
Usually
I
three.
think, yeah, 3 to 4 problems, the top problems that your company is trying to address. So here, we just have like a header or the a like a summary or a title of the problem, and then here you give a detailed explanation of what problem you face. And don't go into the solution just yet. Just list like what problem the customer or the country has.
Yeah, so with customer segments, this is based on the analysis of like the research you did on the previous pages. So this helps in determining who your main consumers are, like we said with the target market, who are the primary, secondary, tertiary consumers, and yeah. So you look at age, occupation, income, and then you can assess from that. But that's based on your research. Yeah, like we said, with the unique value proposition, you have to say why your venture is like unique and it's different compared to the other ones based on what you've seen through your analysis. So yeah.
Yep. So here's just kind of like giving a detailed description of each of these unique value propositions. And here, so just to make your report a bit more interesting and also a bit more unique, here's kind of a chart of the pricing model. So whenever you can include graphics and you have enough space, do it because it makes your report a bit nicer to read and also a lot more interesting to the judges who probably read like 30 to 40 written or reports per day. Yeah.
So yeah, with the solution, you can also state 3 to 4 main headings for the solution. So yeah, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so these solutions just have to correspond to the problems that you said earlier. Um, yeah, basically that's it. Usually solutions is a bit longer than what you say the problem is, just so yes, just so the judge can have a deeper understanding of what your company actually is and what it's trying to solve.
So yeah, with channels, this is basically how the venture will promote their venture to like the to the to the public. So you have to have like different channels. There's like direct channels, which is through your company itself, or indirect channels, which is like third party companies or like through social media and stuff like that. And so there are different ways to like assess if you want to do more of direct channels or indirect channels. And you have to do it based on like the research and from what you've seen in that area and population and like what country they're living in, obviously.
Yeah, so since this is in China, some of you guys might know, this focuses on WeChat, Douyin, Weibo. So those are a lot of Chinese social media platforms. And if you do a research, perhaps those are the ones that you'll consider as your channels. So, right. And then, so this is the revenue streams channel. Oh, sorry, revenue streams section. And this just lists how your company will actually generate revenue. So in this case, this company has two primary models that they'll be generating revenue off of, and that's totally fine. So in this case, it's subscription plans and also just spontaneous ordering. So just give a detailed explanation of how your customers are paying for this, how you'll gain money. Um, and yeah, so you can see there's more graphics. This makes it easier to read and also talk about how much revenue or how much projected revenue that your company is going to gain in. Usually it's 3 years, sometimes it's 5 years, and sometimes it's 7 years. So depends on your event.
So this is the cost structure. This is basically how the venture will work on the insides. So basically like their financial statement and how they'll be spending the money and making profits off of their revenue and then their costs. So there are different types of costs relating to different ventures. Since this is food, it's with distribution and human resources cost. There can be different ones when you're making an app or like some tech venture or something like that. So yeah. Yeah, there's also rental costs, ingredient costs. So yeah.
Yep. So this depends highly like on your actual business and also by, I guess, by your event. So here is the detailed financials. So you guys will probably learn how to create this in a future session. It may be one of the entrepreneurship sections, but I don't know.
I think if you guys are in advanced business honors, Miss Lynn will probably teach you this because I remember she taught us this and it was very hectic, but she taught a lot. So yeah.
All right, that's awesome. Yeah, so basically what this is just first part is the projected income and expenses. So um, like all of the material costs or production costs, payroll expenses, etc. also rent, I guess. And then over here is the cash flow for the first year. So how much you sold using which revenue model. And then down here is the projected balance sheet. So your projected revenue and also how much investment you'll need or how much money you start off with.
Yeah.
All right, so here is the projected 3-year plan. So you kind of give a summary of all of those numbers that you saw earlier based off of or split into these 3 years. So for the first year, what is your total operating revenue, total cost of products sold, and then your total operating expenses, and finally your net income. Second year is the same, and third year is the same. So all of these are cumulative. But you can see for the net income, usually for the first couple of years, first year, second year, or sometimes even third year, your net income is negative. And don't make it so that your net income is positive and a very big number the first year. Otherwise, that's not very believable, and the judges will immediately give you a very bad score on this section. Because usually it takes a company quite a long time to actually be able to pay back all the debts. And here's the brief description of planned growth. So this is split into 7 years, and it's a chart of the total revenue that the company gains. So yeah, this is positive because it's not total profit.
Do you want to talk about this? It's, yeah.
Hello, Mr. Klinsky.
Oh, hi.
All right, so we're just going over an example written because we finished the slides. Okay, so here, so continuing with the financials, for this part, it's basically like a proposed plan of how you're going to get all your investments. So for in this example, we first talked about personal sources. So for example, from family, from friends, and then afterwards you can talk about also like angel investors or the VC. And then finally, you give your request. So for example, this one requested for $300,000 for 30% of the company. And what this basically means is that means that your company is projected to be valued at, how much is that? So it would be 30% times your company's worth is equal to 300,000. All right. So here is like a chart of what the profit that the VC would earn. So in the first year, they would not get any money because the company is still in debt. For the second year as well, they would get $0 because the company still hasn't earned any money. But in the third year, as the company starts to make money, the VC will get back $22,000. In the fourth year, 60,000, and so on. In the seventh year, they would get $239,000. So cumulative over a total of 7 years, they would earn 600 something thousand dollars. So that's more than double the amount that they had initially invested.
Yeah, so key metrics, they show the progress of the company's goals and how they're going to achieve it. So it shows like the sales revenue, the net profit, gross profit margin, the lifetime value, and the restaurant rating, and then advertising costs. This just helps the judge in seeing how you want to progress as a company. And then also with the competitive advantage, you need to have this in your report. It just shows how it's similar to unique value proposition, but this one has different competitors, and then you show like how you're different from them and why you are more unique than them. So yeah.
So a lot of times you utilize like this type of chart where you have your competitors on the left, and then your unique values on the top here. So for each one that you have and your competitor doesn't have, there's like a check mark so you can see like how your company is better than any other competitor out there. All right, so finally is the conclusion, and this is basically just an overview of your entire report or your entire written. So all the way from your problem statements to all your different solutions to the target market analysis of your of the country that you're starting your business if you're doing IBP, or just analysis of your market, and then to like your revenue streams, and finally to how much you're asking for. So it's just a summary of all of that. In usually it's in usually 1 page or like 1.5 pages, I think.
Yeah, and then at the very end, you need to have a bibliography. So you have to do like MLA format and cite like where you got your information from. So that's based on your analysis with the first step. And to add on to this, for written reports, it's really important to be cohesive with like the format. So as you can see, it was like the colors were the same, the font was the same, and then the headings were really similar, like with 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then they had the page numbers. So it's really important for that because it does count with like your rubric and your grading points. So yeah, keep that in mind. And if you want, many people use Canva to make these reports because there's many options in order to style it. So yeah, you can use Canva.
Yeah.
And
So, yep. Go ahead. Sorry.
oh yeah, can you go back to the executive summary? I wanted to say something.
Sure.
So with the judges, they mainly look at the executive summary, and yeah, so just make sure that it's really detailed but also clear and concise, because that's how they're going to assess most of um, this report, because it's like an executive summary, so they can see everything at once. So yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes the judges don't look at, or often they don't look at the entire report. All they look at is like the first 2 pages, and
Yeah,
that's kind of like the first touch point that they get with your
yeah, like first,
report.
like their
Yeah,
first impression. Yeah.
yeah,
And make sure to do your executive summary after your whole report, because you can't really make a summary if you didn't finish like the rest of the reports. So yeah.
yeah. And I guess last point is remember to like use a lot of graphics. This adds a lot of points to your report, and also since a lot of you guys will be writing 20-page writtens, this is important so you don't, I don't know, write 20 page of 12-point font. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah,
Canva has a lot of elements to add on, like graphics. Yeah.
it makes it much easier to read as well,
Yeah.
and it gives you like, might give you a lot more points than if you didn't have any and just had words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, do you guys have any questions related to the written or anything about entrepreneurship? You can put in the chat if you would like. So, it seems like they don't have any questions. If you do, you can stay, but if you don't, you can leave. And thank you for joining our workshop. So, yeah.
Yep. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.